Let's tank Argus the Unmaker in Antorus on normal and heroic difficulty. Now this fight is a 4-phase fight. 3 phases dealing with Argus and 1 phase dealing with ads. So let's have a look at phase 1. Now in phase 1 you want to tank the boss in the centre of the room, as the boss is going to be filling the room full of dark shadowy stuff, which obviously is going to kill you if you stand in it. You're also going to be getting a DPS buff, which you're going to be wanting to drop on the raid. Apart from that, the real goal is to just get the boss to 70% health before he fills the room up. Now the main tank ability is called Sweeping Scythe, and what this is going to do, it's going to cleave everyone in front of him, inflicting 6 million physical damage, and increases damage taken by the next Sweeping Scythe by 150% for 15 seconds. This effect stacks. You only want to go to 2 on this debuff in phase 1, and then just swap, using a minor cooldown to survive the second one. Now this Scythe ability has an absolute huge range on it. It pretty much does a half circle around the boss, so if you're not tanking it currently, make sure you pretty much stand with the raid. Also, as the raid moves, you want to be slightly rotating the boss around, as you'll see in the video. Now the boss is also going to do an AoE called Tortured Rage, and all this is going to do is inflict 2 million shadow damage to everyone. You can't really do anything about this, you just got to eat the damage. The next really important thing about this phase is the boss is going to do Cone of Death. This doesn't affect tanks, but it does affect everyone else in the raid. And what this is going to do is when Argus reaches 100 Titanic Essence, he cleaves the fabric of reality, creating a cone of Death Fog in front of him. And what Death Fog is it's going to inflict 2.5 million shadow damage to all players every second. So what the boss is going to do is going to turn out a random raid member, cleave down and do a big like pizza slice at the raid. Everyone needs to move, so what you need to do is get your raid to stack on the boss's ass to start with. He does the scythe, everyone's stacked up. As soon as he starts casting it, you all move to the right or left, it's up to you. And then you stack on the line or as close to the last patch as possible. Until the next one comes out, he slices again, and they're going to move round. While they're doing that, as a tank, you need to just be rotating the opposite way, so that you're always facing away from the raid. The last mechanic in this phase is called Soul Blight Orb, and again this doesn't affect tanks, so you don't need to worry about it too much. What's going to happen is random raid members are going to get affected by this, and after 8 seconds they're going to drop a black hole basically, or a black fog patch, whatever you want to call it, like this pizza slice ability. So what they need to do is just run to the back. Now, when this overlaps, there's going to be a few problems with them probably dying. So these players who get the debuff just need to be wary of when Cone of Death's coming, and if they overlap, they need to use a movement speed increase, or they're probably going to die. Now, as I said earlier, once you hit 70%, the next phase starts. So what's going to happen is, around the outside of the room, a big swirl's going to come. You just don't want to be on the outside of the room. You want to be in the centre with the boss. And all this little swirl's going to do around the edges is just going to clear up all the death fog that's dropped on the ground and clear the room. So as you've probably noticed, we have this room split into 4 with markers. We have a skull, and that skull's placed by Agramar. We have an X, and then 2 other random markers. Now the skull is where, after the swirl's finished, we pull the boss towards, and we're facing towards the outside for the scythe ability that's back again. And the X marker is where the player with Soul Bomb's going to go to, and the other 2 markers are where players with Soul Burst are going to go to. Now Soul Bomb and Soul Burst are both dots that are going to be put on players. You're going to get 2 Soul Burst and 1 Soul Bomb. Now the Soul Burst are just going to tick the players down, and when it wears off, a detonation is going to happen, which is going to inflict 2 million shadow damage to the afflicted player. It's also going to deal 2 million shadow damage to all other players. Now this amount is reduced the further away players are, to a maximum of 45 yards, so that's why we split up the room and use the outside of the room for these markers. Now Soul Bomb's a bit more of an issue, as it's going to deal more ticking damage to the player, but when it wears off, it's going to inflict 10 million shadow damage to all afflicted players. And it's going to have that fall off like the other bomb did. So the further they are away, the less damage it's going to do. Now, to keep this player alive, luckily for us, Agramar's going to give us aid. And he does this with Avatar of Agramar, which is like a buff he puts on a tank. And this will make him big, yellow and shiny. It's also going to increase the maximum health by 100% and increase your movement speed by 40% for 1 minute. It's also going to give you Agramar's boon, which is going to, players who stand near the Avatar have any damage they take redirected to the Avatar. So basically, you want to run to the person with the Soul Bomb, stand on top of them, which is at the X marker, funnily enough, and then instead of them dying to the 10 million damage, it's going to hit the tank instead, because the damage is redirected to them, and because your health's doubled, the 10 million damage is only going to take you down to maybe a quarter health. If you're even worried, you can use a cooldown, but you shouldn't really need to, as your health pool should be about 15 million anyway. The final ability of phase 2 is Edge of Obliteration, which is these black lines, and a scythe's going to go through them. If you get clipped by this, it's going to inflict 1.2 million physical damage every 2 seconds for 12 seconds, and it's also going to knock you back. So basically, don't stand in the lines even if you have a tank, because it does tick quite heavily and it's probably going to end up killing you unless you've got the boon buff. But even then, it's still kind of rough and it's just unnecessary damage. Now, the only real tricky thing here for us as tanks is getting the taunting right and the stacks right for the Agrimar's boon buff. Now, the only real tip here I can give is to go to 3 scythes on the first person in the phase to take it, and then that should help you set right for when the debuffs are going out, where you need to run out and soak. Apart from that, as soon as it gets back in, you're just taunting on 2, and that should hopefully set it up for the rest of the phase for you. Now, this phase goes to 40%, where the boss will then be subdued by one of the avatars in the background. He'll then go away and you'll get a load of like constellation guys around the room. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this phase, but what you need to know is each ad has a different weakness. So say one will be weak to shadow, one will be weak to physical damage, so on and so forth. The next thing you need to know is you need to let star blasts go off, and the only thing you should be interrupting is cosmic beacons. If you interrupt the star blasts, you're going to become immune to interrupts, and then cosmic beacons are going to hit a lot harder. The final thing you need to be aware of, especially as a tank, is 2 of these ads can become empowered. It can be any 2, and these will then run around and start hitting players, so you need to be really quick to pick them up. You'll probably need to taunt them as they've had a weakness on them, so threat's going to be a big issue. And you need to like coordinate with your other tank which one you're going to get. You can do this by one quickly marked and one gets the unmarked one gets the marked one, or you can just set sides of the room and you get the closest one to you. You need to keep these ads away from the other ads, and these need killing off as quick as possible by everyone in the raid, as they'll end up killing your tanks if they're not. Now, apart from that, this phase is pretty easy. There's nothing too difficult about it, so long as the tanks are picking up the ads and they not start one-shotting players, which they will do if they're not taunting correctly. And once all the ads are dead, we go into the final phase. Now, as soon as you enter this phase, Argus is going to come and he's going to kill everyone in the raid. A little bit of RP happens and the tree girl puts a tree down there. You release spirit and you can run around. You'll see a load of little shards running about and you want to head towards the tree. Now, if you hit a shard, it's going to punt you back, so you don't want to do that. You just want to get the tree and that'll resurrect you. Now, you want to make sure a tank picks him up and then takes him to skull again, and you're pretty much going to do what he did in phase 2 with the boss. You put him on the skull, people run out to the markers with the debuff, jobs are good. And however, unfortunately now, Deadly Scythe no longer falls off and it stacks indefinitely. So you want one tank just to take him and rotate cooldowns to go as high as he can. He then dies, goes back down, and he can resurrect the same way. But when he goes down, he wants to gather orbs. Now, every 20 orbs you get, it's going to give everyone in the raid a damaging buff. So you want to get as many as you can and then come up before the other tank dies again, and you're just going to repeat this. And that's pretty much it for the Scythe and the down phase. You want to be going to about, I'd say, 7 maximum probably. Then just die and let the other tank take over and then rotate that way. Now in this phase as well, you'll notice loads of little swirls on the ground. Don't stand in them, they deal a lot of damage and it's unnecessary damage for your healers to heal up, so just dodge the swirls. You'll also notice some like orbs floating about that need to be killed off by range players. The longer these are up, the bigger the circle they do is, which is bad. You want to be DPSing them down. The longer they're up for, the bigger the circle. So I try to kill these off, or they're just going to end up wiping the raid. Now apart from that, you only get so many reses with the tree downstairs. Once it's been used up, healers can start healing it when it goes withered to keep it up a bit longer. However, it won't last forever, so don't be dying to like 1 or 2 scythes in the last phase. You need to at least get, like, as I said, 5 to 7 maximum, or minimum I should say, out of it, and this should help you get the kill. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it for this fight. It's an okay fight. I preferred the Agrimar fight to this. I thought this was really undertuned for a heroic fight. The mechanics are really simple. As long as people aren't messing up, you'll get a really easy kill. That's it for this guide. Please like, comment and sub for more vids.